Welcome back to the party package. My name is Owen, and allow me to introduce myself. I am the savior of entertainment and the host of today's video for the Minnesota Wild season preview. Now, last time we talked about the LA Kings, a team that I personally think is going to be not playoff successful this year and might start falling off in the years to come and be mediocre. Today, we've got a team in the Minnesota Wild, a team that can really go for success this season, as long as certain things pan out the way they should, and hopefully do. So, of course, right now, the main thing to talk about is the Kirill Kaprizov situation. He's, right now, I think pretty sure the word is right now, as of now, is that he's stuck in Russia. And I don't know if he's actually going to be able to come back. I don't know if anyone knows. No one really knows what's happening. So, I don't know. No one knows. You can't really tell what's going to happen there. So, but let's just say he's going to be in the lineup. If he's going to be in the lineup this year, of course, the number one player of this team, that would be terrible if he couldn't get there. So, let's talk about the good before the bad. The positives of this team is that this is maybe the best, well-rounded, all-away team, at least that I've covered yet. This team, from the first to at least the third line, and depending on what happens with the fourth line this season, is so well put together. You have 40-plus point people all the way through, and then you've got people like Rossi and Jost who can make that, especially Rossi, who's going to make his debut. This whole team together has so much potential to grow and be hugely successful this upcoming season. I mean, and most of these guys are young. You got Eriksson Ek is young still. Hartman is still young still. Foligno's not. Boldy, Goudreau, Rossi, all these guys, Jost, Duhaime, I don't really know anything about Duar. I've never heard of him before. Are all young players that can grow and get better than they already are. And Rossi's going to make his debut, who was, I thought was a pretty great steal for the Minnesota Wild that he dropped down to them in that draft year. And then on defense, this team's defense is probably the best defensively built defense in the league, or at least up there with whoever. This Middleton, Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba, Goligoski, Kulikov, this is going to be such a hard team for teams to shoot and score against, because even if they somehow get through the offense and they go down the ice and they have to run into this defense, if they even try to get a shot on net, you've got one of the best goalies of all time, Marc-Andre Fleury, in net. And I think he probably still stays as good as he ever has been this upcoming season. And this is just such a well-built team. This is a stone wall of a team. This is just so well built. That's all I can say. It's so well built together. But at the same time, I think one of the biggest problems for this team, here comes the bad, is that you've got people like Ryan Hartman, who had his breakout season this year, and he's got 65 points, but it was his only really good first season that he had. You're kind of betting that he's going to do that again, that he's going to reproduce that same offensive score, outage, point, whatever, produce that much again, and I think he can. I definitely think he's at least a 50-point scorer just watching the way he plays. I think he is in the playoffs at the end of the season. He just seems to be the type of player that is going to stay that solid, at least, I would say, in his career, 50-plus. Maybe his best year is a 70, but I think 50 to 60 is around his range to be at. Now, of course, Kaprizov, depends. I mean, if Kaprizov's out, what happens when you lose your best player? What happens if, I mean, let's just say, like, let's say the Colorado Avalanche just randomly lose Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, what happens? Like, he just disappears. It would be not a very good situation there. That could totally throw off the way this team works, and I don't even have a clue what would happen if he doesn't show up. I don't know how that works. So, moving on from, hopefully he can come back. I think he will. I just feel like the way the world works, he will come back. But the main problem with this team is that some of these players you're kind of hoping that last year wasn't their best season. That last year wasn't their career year. and are going to maybe not grow to that same level. Because you're betting on hoping that Zuccarello is going to continue being a 79 points guy. You're hoping that he's not going to start falling off the cliff this year. You're hoping that Eriksson can continue being 49. You're hoping that you can have Hartman at 65. You're hoping that Foligno gets 42 and Gaudreau gets 44 or Boldy gets 39. Because that is what you're really hoping for with these young guys, because at the same time, young guys can grow or they can also stagnate. That's how players work. So you're really hoping that these guys are going to continue the path that they started last year and they keep going with that. So what is the main fixes to this team? Let's say they're coming up to the playoffs. What would I fix about this team? Well, first off, let's just assume that Kirill Kaprizov is with the team. If Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov is on the team, I think they need one more, like I say for all the playoff teams, they need that one more it factor player, that one more boost to really push them over that hurdle. I think what that happened in the series against the St. Louis Blues is that they kind of didn't have that push guy. They didn't have the it factor, especially in offense. Like, their offense, to me, really kind of fell off, and they were dominated by the Blues, who were able to do everything better than they did. So that is kind of the hard thing that I have to say about the Wild that I'll talk about when I get to their playoffs in a second, is that they're missing that it factor to them. Because as good as this team is built well-roundedly, at the same time, they kind of have that feeling again of not really the killer move. I said this about LA yesterday, is that I think they don't really have, they have a lot of second line guys that need that main person. You got Eriksson and Foligno. Like, these guys are great players, but I feel like they need that extra, this team needs something to push them over that line. So I'm thinking about it, and would like a Kadri help? Well, no, they're already booked so well on in the center. I don't really know what type of player they could pick up for that real deal it factor to push them over that line offensively. And especially if Kirill Kaprizov, I can't say his stupid name, can't make it back to the States to play for this season. So with this team, let's say he is there. Does this team make it to the playoffs? I think this team makes it easily. I think it'll be like the Colorado, it'll go St. Louis, and then it'll be Minnesota. And if Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov isn't over here, I still think they could make it into the 4th or 5th wild card spot. I think they could pull it off with this team without him. I think they still have a well-built offensive unit with a player like Rossi coming up. You got all like depth all the way through the lineup, and defense and goaltending. This team could make it to the playoffs with or without him. But do they make it, and are they a serious contender? In my eyes, I don't think that they're at that point, because they're missing that it factor for me. Because a guy like Zuccarello, in my eyes, and Foligno and Greenway are not playoff Stanley Cup winning material in my eyes. They need, in my head, if I was this team, I would want to pick up like a serious like fighting player. That's why I think the Florida Panthers picked up like a Kachuk instead of a Huberdeau, is that they need that grindy, that won't give up, that power forward type player. And I think this team would do really well, and it would kill me because I love him on my team, but it would kill me to see if they got like a Timo Meier or something, or like a Tomas Hertl, a guy, two guys that just never give up and are just full on, like a Connor Garland too, a guy that you put on the ice and is just going to never runs out of energy, just keep pushing and just is a pain to deal with. They need a guy like that is going to make them a serious team. To me, this team's got too many not serious players. They need that serious guy like a Kachuk or a Garland or a Meier. These guys are just going to push and push and push, not give up until their team scores a goal. So, do they make it to the playoffs with this team? Yes. If they have one of those type of players, I feel like this team isn't cup potential yet. They're missing something to this lineup. They need a little spice. They need a little seasoning to really bring them to that level. So I would say they maybe make it to the second round. It's just the problem is that when you go against a team, for me, in the Blues, I feel like the Blues are exactly the same thing as the Minnesota Wild, except better. They have Torrey Krug. They have on defense. They have Krug and Parayko. They've got every other player on this team is just better than what they have, and I don't see them really overcoming that hurdle. And then even if they do, they then have to run into the Avalanche in the second round. So does this team win the cup? No. Could they make? I would say they get as far as the second round, and that's about it. So that's what I have to say about the Minnesota Wild. If you like this video, please pick up your free subscription down below by hitting that red subscribe button. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, don't leave a dislike. You can go down below to the comment section, leave any opinions, tangents, rants, or other sorts of feedback, comments, concerns, suggestions, or other types of reviews that you'd like to tell me down below. And do you think the Minnesota Wild make it to the playoffs? And if they do they make it all the way? Is this the serious team or not? Thank you for watching. Too sweet. And ta-ta for now.